It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
This next story just warms the heart, you know? It touches you. Father-son business, pull
Danny loves
themselves
a
up
good
by the
kick in the
bootstrap.
ball story. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and I love it because one of these guys has a felony record, doesn't he?
I don't know about that, but that would be
I think
hilarious and not surprising.
Right. I think it's the old man is a felon.
Ernie
Anyhow,
Garcia the second and Ernie
yes.
Garcia the third is the son.
Yeah, so these two guys own a company called Carvana. Now, we've talked about Carvana a couple times here because, down in South Austin, which I never go there because I'm not from California. It's like I have family that moved into Austin from out of town, and they're like, yeah, we're moving to South Austin. I'm like, that's right, commies. That's right. There's no Round Rock Donuts there. You go there. But they have this big, beautiful car vending machine.
Yep.
Right. And it uses actually technology that's popular in Europe and Japan, high density cities where they just stack cars. They just use it to park cars in other cities, but this is America. We took their old technology, we threw some LED lights on it, and we called it a car vending machine.
And it's really just a big billboard. Essentially is what it is.
Yes.
I'm sure it functions, and I'm sure they bring cars in and out of it, right, when needed. I'm just saying that it's really used as a big billboard, right? It's not something that's used often. There's no line waiting outside of the car vending machine to get their cars, right, that they bought on Carvana.
Correct.
Look, I think this article being about Carvana and these two billionaires losing money is something we're going to... Losing stupid amounts of money, and Danny's about to get into that. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, goes along with Netflix. Some of these companies that made a lot of money during the panini, right, because they were convenient and everybody was stuck at home and everybody didn't want to get out of their house and all of that kind of stuff. Some of these companies grew too big too fast.
Correct.
And there's going to be a rebound effect of that as people get back to what they consider normal life. Carvana is one of those. If you were buying a used car during the panini, you weren't going down to what would be your normal car lot
you're not
and
going down
shaking
to
hands with Joe Bob that haven't showered in 3 days, right? That's going to give you a great deal on a used car. That's not how you were doing it. So they went to the alternatives.
Right. So Ernesto Garcia, the second, is a felon. He is an ex-con. Now, here's what I like about that.
Imagine that. And Danny does like that.
I do. Because in this country, you can start a fraudulent car dealership, you can get convicted, you can do your time, whatever. And then you and your son can go and start a car dealership that has title property. So we talked about Carvana maybe a few months ago because they had acquired, because their stock price was through the roof. And it was they had acquired one of the large, I think the second or third largest auto wholesale auction in this country called Odessa. And it in some ways vertically integrated their business, and it gave them a little more opportunity to deal with the number one problem that this company has, which is people buy their cars and then don't get titles. So, of course, listen, I think titles are important. I think in the future, titles will just be NFTs. But, it makes it difficult because you need to get license plates. Now, needing a license plate and, car inspections like we have in Texas, those are, of course, unconstitutional. They are human rights violations.
They're shouldn't have.
Yeah,
but it is. Go ahead.
But, yeah, of course. So I'm just saying that they have lost $11 billion combined this year. That's
60% of their company. Look, this is what happens when Danny gets onto everything's fake, like money's fake, right? Valuations are fake or whatever.
Right. Correct.
Elon Musk buys Twitter, and then but then Tesla the next day. So he buys Twitter for 44 billion. The next day, his company Tesla loses in his value 126 billion. How does
Right.
that make sense? Because it's all fake. He's still the richest man on the planet. He's
Right.
just, it's all fake. In this case, these two guys, the company has lost 60% of its value since the beginning of the year. 60%, right? It's even worse than that if you really think about it, because at the height of the Panini, at the height of Carvana, it was trading at $377 a share. As of today, it's $76 a share.
That's still pretty a hefty price. I feel like it's overvalued in some way.
Well, but my point though is if you bought again at $376 a share, you've lost more than 60% of your value as an investor, right? So, and these guys are both obviously still billionaires, right?
Yeah. And what I find fascinating is, I have to explain this to the audience. They're billionaires on paper, right? Now they can go to the bank and they can probably get out millions of dollars in credit and debt, or leverage, as we would say, because they have all of these shares and it's $1 billion company. But the reality is they don't have this kind of money in their bank account. And if they were to start liquidating their position to have the actual cash, they wouldn't probably be billionaires. They'd probably come in right under $1 billion because the stock would take such a hit.
But that's part of what's caused this. They had done exactly that. Right. During the Panini, they tried to cash out on their growth and do offerings of their own stock holdings, which when insiders start to let go of shares, right? When Elon Musk, like he did, a week ago, sold $1 billion worth of shares of Tesla, he had to disclose that. He's a primary shareholder. When that email goes out into the universe that an insider, that a majority stakeholder is selling their shares, the market, as it were, assumes they know something that we don't. They're an insider. So if an insider is selling stock, that means they don't see the value in holding on to that stock.
Right. And the only reason Elon Musk did that is because him and Grimes were having another child whose name nobody can pronounce. So
it's a math equation or something, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's the quadratic equation. We all know it, but how do you pronounce it as a name? But so Big Man sent me the story because he knows I love a good scam,
and that's what this is.
And my question is, of course, this is kind of a quick hit, but what is a scam then? Like these guys they actually do, like, at some point in time, the cars are transacting, right? Whether or not the titles get transferred, that's a different story. But the point is, these cars they're switching hands. The vending machines literally exist. They're not selling you a bridge in a foreign country, right? These vending machines exist.
Just because it's not an obvious complete scam doesn't mean it's not a scam. If you buy a car and never get the title for it, it's a scam. Right. If you buy a car and can't get it inspected and you get a ticket for it, that's a scam, right? Like, there's a way we go about doing business that is treating people properly, and then there's outside of that.
And all I'm saying is that scam, or are they, like Uber, protesting the unnecessary and vile means by which the government controls the ownership of your property through taxation, through licensing fees, and so forth, all of which are the Supreme Court says all of that is incorrect and you're not allowed to do that, but whatever. I think that's, if you choose to look at it that way, right, where you go, hey, these guys are just fighting the man. It's not a scam. Not. They're free. They're not, but I'm choosing to see it that way because,
This story is why there are anti-capitalists out there, right?
Yeah.
This company, Carvana, is why there are anti-capitalists out there. For example, let's just say this Ernesto Garcia second and third, right?
Right.
Started this company from, let's just say they didn't have a lot of money. They started this company. They built it up to what Carvana is. Nobody saw the Panini coming, but it did, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
during the PNE, they started flowing out, selling stock because it was
Yeah.
$200 a share. Then it was $300 a share. Then it was
Correct.
$376 a share. So they're slowly leaking out stock, right?
Right.
And
Right.
people are buying them because it's going up in value. Now, because of an unprecedented thing. Now,
Right.
let's just say at some point in the next couple of years, because I think this is a real possibility, that stock value goes to zero. Because Carvana goes out of business because they can't maintain. They took on too much debt when they bought the auctioneer places, right?
Right.
Which they bought 100% on credit, right?
Right.
And on top of that, used car values are already showing a plateau, if not a decrease in certain places, because you can't buy you. They
Well,
were artificially inflated over the last couple of years,
right.
right?
And the big thing people were buying that was really contributing to the data, the numbers going so high,
Mm-hmm.
was trucks. Well, gas, thanks to you know who, is $1 bajillion. So
It's not thanks to what Danny's alluding to. Stop that. Not his fault. Quit it. Anyway,
yeah,
the point though, you all these factors factor in, right?
yeah,
So you don't have the money flowing in. So what does that do to your stock price? Insiders are selling. What do you do to what does that do to your
right,
stock price? And then ultimately, these two cash out whatever stock that they can sell between now and zero, and
right,
then done. They're now billionaires forever,
right,
and the company goes to zero, right?
right. Well,
Because
if they
they knew it
really,
wasn't succeed from the get.
right. So if I was, Ernesto Garcia the third, I would say, hey man, what do you got? A couple $100 million? Let me help you out here. Let's buy a couple NFTs. We'll flip a few. You can keep your stock. You'll become a billionaire that way too. It's worked for Logan Paul. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it has.
nonetheless, I just want to say, to both of these guys, I wish you well. I
Well,
wish you well
yeah,
on your journey. I hope you guys get the title nonsense figured out. I believe in you guys. You can do it.
yeah. Well, definitely couldn't happen to two better people. I don't know them personally, but
I
I'm
hope to
just
meet them
saying that.
someday. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ernesto dos and tres, you're invited onto a show. So
But I'm going to tell you the same thing to your face that I'm saying now. That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
I will not be a very good host. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying they would be the second least scammy person. Like we've had an even better scammer on our show. So I'm just saying,
Well, I'm always polite. I'm never
yeah,
rude. I'm always
no.
polite. But I will tell you what I believe.
All right. We're going to move on to this next segment. We're going to do some follow up. Before we do that, I want to remind you bigmangear.com is the big man's merch brand. Again, like we mentioned earlier in today's show, it is printed and shipped, delivered, and returns are managed by Amazon Prime. You should go to bigmangear.com. That'll take you to the Amazon Prime store and you can check it out there.